Alright, so this week we had to assess evidence, and we looked between the two essays, Story or Spectacle, Why Television is Better Than the Movies by David Charpenter, and Stay Unlikable for the Good of TV by Jake Flanagan. And so these two readings obviously both focus on TV, and so Charpenter focused more on proving the point that television is better than the movies, and Flanagan focused on why unlikable characters are actually better for TV. And so they both use evidence to support their arguments, but the way they do that kind of differs. So Charpenter used very well-known, very specific movies, TV shows to show the differences between good films versus bad films. And so Flanagan, on the other hand, he more so focused on one main example while listing out a bunch of supporting evidence. And so he listed out a lot of various examples of film characters that display unlikable characteristics and how they can be very interesting and relatable to the audience, or us. And so I think Charpenter went more in depth with his evidence, discussing why something makes a movie less engaging or interesting to the audience, or why something makes us more invested in a TV show compared to a movie. While Flanagan, again, he focused more on one specific evidence, that being Dr. Mindy Lahiri, as the main example of an unlikable yet lovable character, with a lot of additional evidence, listing out a lot of different characters from a mix of different films who are also unlikable yet lovable. And so in Charpenter's essay, he notes very specific, very well-known movies and shows to support his point that television is better than the movies. And so one example he uses is Hulk. And so for Hulk, he states that it's a good watch, but it was predictable in a sense where he says he wouldn't believe that any of the egotistical heroes are in grave danger and wouldn't get the job done. And so it was, I guess, less suspenseful because it was predictable. He knew that the heroes would have their happy ending and save the day. One thing he does say, though, he says that Iron Man 3 was a very well done movie, and so that was one of the movies that he liked as an example. He says that it's because it's more focused on one character, and they gave that character a lot to work with, and so the character development was a lot better. And when you're more invested in a character, it gets more interesting for the audience. And they also provided a lot of good, intense moments with explosions at the finale. Charpenter really likes explosions, so Charpenter also believes that media needs to be engaging while having a good establishment of the film's worlds, the main characters, and the relationships, along with introducing plot points. And so he did a good job providing evidence, movies, shows, things that everyone knows, like the Hulk, Iron Man 3. He also says, he also references Mad Men and The Shield, and a lot more to show the differences between an engaging, interesting film versus a disengaging, boring film. And so he really values character development, just an overall engaging, something you can invest in, which is why it's hard to do in a 2-hour movie. And so that's why he thinks that TV shows are a lot better than movies. Flanagan provides a lot more evidence compared to Charpenter. Although he doesn't go more in depth as Charpenter does, he lists a massive list of, for example, good girls and bad girls, the stereotypical good girl, bad girls from a variety of films throughout his essay. The biggest example he makes, I stated before, was his biggest evidence, Dr. Mindy Lahiri, on the Mindy Project. She gossips, she's materialistic, she's selfish, and sometimes a little bit dishonest. But this is something that makes her a lot more relatable as a human, and it also makes it a lot more funny and interesting to the audience. And so film being interesting and engaging is something that's really important. That's what makes people want to keep coming back and watching these films. Even so, he still provides a whole variety of characters to support and to talk about the interest in these obnoxious and unlikable characters. He lists like Hannah Horvath, Cersei Lannister, Kelly Kapoor. I don't know if I said that right, but he lists a whole lot, and you can see it throughout the essay. It does a good job of supporting his point that unlikable characters tend to do very well, and he always brings it back to Dr. Mindy Lahiri, who's like the main unlikable character in his essay. So yeah, that's about it for assessing evidence. I thought these two readings were really interesting.